Hello, everyone. I'm not sure if people are still joining, but we will go ahead and get started. I'm Caroline Wolf, and this is our January 2023 LCT webinar. Welcome. We have about 4 people who are here, but we will be posting this presentation on our YouTube channel, just in case someone who wants to watch can watch later on. We've got our whole team with us today. We've got Kennedy, Kyle, Jennifer, Patty, and Cheryl, and we'll be getting started on letting you know what to expect for this month. As many of you know, the Form 471 filing window is open. Please continue to read our newsletter for lots of information about what's going on. I'm going to talk about the summary of LCT funding. Kyle's going to talk about the window and a great recording that we've done to talk about how to file the Form 471. Jennifer's going to talk about the next steps, and Patty is going to talk about deadline reminders. So actually, we've got 4 libraries that have already filed applications for 2023, $62,796.60 in pre-discount dollars, and that's $54,815.34 in discounts. And believe it or not, that represents 81% of the dollars requested for funding for Texas libraries. So we're leading the pack. Great job, y'all. Congratulations. Just a few reminders that we'll continue to talk about throughout the webinar. Make sure that if you haven't gotten your discounts for 2022, that you get that taken care of. I'm sorry, 2021. This is a typo. If you requested an extension for the bear, or well, you haven't gotten a SPY discount already on that, you probably will not get it. So you'll need to file a bear. Make sure that you file by the deadline, because the extended deadline is in February, and the deadline to file the Form 471 is March 28th. So if you have a multi-year contract, oh, and Patty's saying that she's not seeing my screen, so I'll share it. I don't think I did. Sorry about that, y'all. Thanks, Patty. So again, the deadline to file the application is March 2023. Oops. Switched too soon. So make sure that you take care of that. If you have a Form 470 that's out there right now, don't jump the gun. Make sure that you wait till the allowable contract date. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the Form 471 filing window, and Kyle, you can take it away.
Thank you, Caroline. Yes, the Form 471 window opened last week, January 18th. So we're in the thick of the timeline now. Currently, the part of the timeline that you should be thinking about is, falls under winter. And on our next slide, we have just a brief overview of that timeline. And if you filed a Form 470 this year, you started with the competitive bidding period, and that has hopefully now closed. We have 7 libraries that still need to file a Form 470 for this year, because they have a contract that is ending prior to June 30th of 2024. I see 1 or 2 of you on the call today who do need to file a Form 470. So thank you for being here. And after this call, let's work on filing that Form 470 so that you can meet that March 28th deadline for the Form 471. So the Form 471 is the part of the process in which you are going to be requesting discounts on services. So following up into so it is winter, and this is typically the time when you're addressing these action items. Right now, the administrative window has closed, so school districts can no longer update their NSLP data in EPC. But if you filed a Form 470 this year, you are still going to need to evaluate all bid responses. As Caroline mentioned, if you have not reached your ACD yet, or the bid deadline on your service specifications timeline, then you need to wait until that date before evaluating those. Retain all bids received and related correspondence. Oh, can we just go back one slide? Sorry about that, Caroline. Thank you. So if you have to bring any of your proposals or contracts for approval before the library board or city council or county judge, whatever the situation may be for your local area, be sure to do that prior to filing the Form 471. In order to file the Form 471, you need to have an award date. And if you can't make that award until you've addressed these items with your board or council or whatever that body may be, if you need to, then you can't file the Form 471 until you've done that. And again, we have 7 libraries that still need to file a Form 470. On the next slide, we are just going to look over the total timeline for the Form 471 filing window. Again, it started last week on January 18th. We have less than 9 weeks to go within that Form 471 filing window. That ends on March 28th. 28 days prior to that, February 28th, is the final day to file a Form 470. We definitely recommend filing it as soon as possible before then, just so you have time within which to work, and you're not going to be rushed in evaluating the bids, making the award, and then filing the Form 471 in the last few days or last day of the window. And avoid waiting until the last day if you can. Just to review the award letters and contracts, these are going to result from following your bid evaluations. Once a decision is made, the library can prepare an award letter and send that to the winning service provider. That would establish a contract start date for the purposes of E-rate. If you instead sign a more formal contract, that would work as well. But if you make an award and later need to sign a contract, that's acceptable as well. Most service providers are going to require the library to sign their contract in such a case as that. So try to get that taken care of as quickly as possible, although you only need the award letter and that contract award date in order to file the Form 471 and create the contract record in EPC. And if you can get a copy of that signed agreement or contract over to us, we can better assist you in filing the Form 471. Finally, we, as Caroline mentioned, have recorded, pre-recorded webinars that walk through the process of filing the funding year 2023 Form 471. Those are available on our YouTube channel. We have 3 videos. If you filed a Form 470 this year, and as a result of that bidding process created a contract, or are going to be using month-to-month services, the first two videos there are going to be useful to you. Creating a contract record that will walk you through including all the contract details and the length of the term of your service contract there, the service provider, their SPIN number, and all the details related to that contract are going to need to be entered in order to reference it later on the Form 471. That second video is going to walk you through the process of filing the Form 471 with that new contract, or if you have month-to-month services, filing it with month-to-month services. And then finally, there's a third video there available for those of you who established a multi-year contract in a previous funding year. So if you have a 24-month or 36-month or 60-month contract that was established last year or in a previous year, and it doesn't end before June 30th of 2024, then that contract is something that you can reference on the Form 471. And that contract would be the reason why you did not have to file a Form 470 this year, since you can just continue to reference that for the length of the contract. Please feel free to make use of these resources for drafting the Form 471, but contact the LCT team at our email address or hotline number if you have any questions. And then I believe next we have Jennifer, who is going to discuss next steps and deadlines.
Thank you, Kyle. So our next steps and deadlines is to make sure that you have added all of us to your EPC portal. And there's a list there of your LCT team. You will assign us full rights except for the 498. And if you have questions or need the steps on how to do that, again, please reach out to us and we can assist you with that. And then when your 471 is completed, you will click Save and Share to share the draft with the LCT team in your portal. That way we can review it prior to you certifying it. So if we have see any issues or any recommendations, we'll reach out to you and let you know. This way it allows, to minimize the mistakes for any issues that may arise in a PIA review. And then it is important to remember that February 28th is the deadline to file your 470. Keep in mind, that means that you're going to have to then, on the closing day of March 28th, review the bids, submit an award letter, or get the contract signed, bring it to any members of your board, the commission, however your process is, and then turn around and file your 471 before the deadline of March 28th. So it is highly recommended to do this prior to February 28th. If you need assistance or help, again, reach out to us and we will assist you to get you through the 470. If your current service contract ends prior to June 30th of 24, or I'm sorry, of 23, you will have to file a 470. If it goes through June 30th of 24, you will file a 470 for next year. Or if you plan on increasing the bandwidth, this is important. You need to let us know. And if it wasn't something that was established in your existing 470, we need to look at that, and you may need to go out to bid for that as well.
Thanks, Jennifer. Patty's going to take over the deadlines. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's always really important to double check and make sure if you're planning on upgrading or making any changes, you really need to talk to us before you do that, because you may need to file a new 470. You still have a little time right now. As we move on, that opportunity goes away. So I'm going to move on for Patty.
Great, thanks, Caroline and Jennifer. Our next deadline reminder that we want to talk about is for funding year 2021 BEAR. That's for the year that ended June 30th of 2022. There's a few libraries that we're showing that have not yet received your E-rate discounts for the year. So there's still time to file for your reimbursement. But it must be filed by February 27th next month. This is the deadline to invoice USAC and to file a BEAR, or the billed entity applicant reimbursements. So if you're one of the libraries still needing to file for the reimbursements, our LC team would have already reached out to notify you, and we are here to assist if there's any questions on that. So our next slide is another deadline reminder for the Form 486 for funding year 2022. These are for services that began July 1st of 2022. We recommend filing this form as soon as you receive your funding commitment decision letter. And we're showing that all of our libraries have filed their Form 486s this year. So great job to everyone. And just a notation here on the Form 486 before we move forward, that's just a form that you file within 120 days after the FCDL or your service start date. So on to the next slide. If anyone has any questions, just raise your hand and our panel here can help answer any questions.
Thanks, Patty. Yes, that Form 486 is also known as the SIPA compliance form. It lets USAC know that they can start paying the invoices, but it also is what we use, well, what libraries and schools do to let USAC know that they are compliant with SIPA. Any questions? You can unmute yourself or raise your hand, and we will call on you, or you can put it in the chat, whatever you want to do. Our next call will be at the same time on February 23rd, and that will be right before the last date to file a Form 470. Hopefully, we will be able to report that everyone's filed a Form 470 who needs to file one, just like we did with the 486s. That'll be great. Okay, well, if we don't have any questions, you can find the recording for this webinar on our YouTube channel, and any other recordings that of previous webinars, as well as our Come File with Us. Oh, look, it looks like we have some Q&A going on. So the narrative portion for the Form 471, and do you send a copy of this? So this webinar, we actually have a recording of it, Kathy, and that's going to be on our YouTube channel pretty soon. The link to our YouTube channel is on the last slide, so you should be able to access it. Or I don't see it on this one, but it is in Kyle's slide. He's got the recording for the Form 471 as well. And for the narrative portion on the Form 471, you really just, you don't necessarily have to put a lot of things in the narrative, but you might want to just describe what the service is. Sometimes it's just plain old internet access, and so you just say it's internet access for the library and its patrons, or something like that, or 100 megabits internet access for the library and its patrons. It doesn't have to be very complicated. You can just have a one-liner. So I hope that answers your question, Amber. It's a good question. Okay, any more questions? Well, glad that we were able to answer those. If you have any others, you can always send an email to lct@eratecentral.net. I'm sorry, .com. And then also you can call the LCT hotline at 516-801-7820. And we'll see you next time, if not before. Thanks, y'all.